What's up, guys, and welcome back to Thomas Reacts here on the 360 Experience with myself, Thomas Mabaso. So, guys, the Democratic Alliance for the longest time have been accused of discrimination, and I remember most recently they were accused by the leader of Patriotic Alliance, Gaten McKenzie, of saying that the Democratic Alliance is only governing good where white people are living there in the Western Cape, but in the communities where black people are living and where the colored communities are living, the Democratic Alliance is not basically doing a good job. So that was the accusation that was leveled by Gaten McKenzie against the Democratic Alliance. So today I want us to look at this clip right here, because the leader of the DA, John Steenhuisen, he went on this podcast and guys, he touched on this issue of Cape Flats, of crime and of drugs, and he's going to try to explain it to us what is really happening there in Cape Town. Because guys, you know that you don't even have to live in Cape Town to know that in Nyanga, you don't have to live in Cape Town to know that Cape Flats and Michelle's Plain and all of those places are rotten to the core. You know that those places, they have a lot of drugs. Those places, there are a lot of gang activities that are taking place right there. And the Democratic Alliance, this whole thing, it does not suit them well, because they're trying to sell this whole thing of saying that the Western Cape is the best run province in South Africa. But there are people who can say, no, how can you be the best run province in South Africa when you still have places like Cape Flats, Michelle's Plain, Nyanga and Khayelitsha and so on, and these are the places that you are not particularly talking about. So the leader of the Democratic Alliance, John Steenhuisen, he's going to address what is actually happening there in Cape Town. He's going to tell us about Cape Flats, about the crime and the guns, and what is exactly happening in Cape Town, because I know that right now in South Africa a lot of people are actually confused, because people want to know what is actually happening in Cape Town. What is the DA that is governing Cape Town doing about everything that has been happening in Cape Town? What is the Democratic Alliance doing about the crime, about homelessness, about the gang activities that are taking place there in Cape Town? And how can the Democratic Alliance say that the Western Cape is the best run province in South Africa when they still have townships like Nyanga and all of those guys that I've already mentioned? So guys, let's hear what the leader of the Democratic Alliance is saying about all of these things.
And I mean, I also want to know, how do you feel about the conditions in places like the Cape Flats?
They're not great, and it's not a great environment to live in. But certainly, it's not our vision that people would live in those conditions for the rest of their lives, and that is why we're building more housing opportunities. We're creating more well-located land close to the city centre, so that people are able to graduate out of places like that into starter homes, into subsidised housing, into rent to buy, and to freehold properties. That is the model that's going to have to be used. But for now, that is the reality. Just as it is the reality in Sao Paulo in Brazil, just as it's the reality in Calcutta, Delhi, Mumbai, just as it's a reality in any one of those countries that have those types of situations where you have rapid urbanization and massive unemployment, and people flock to urban areas to try and find opportunities.
And I mean, in terms of, I know the gangs are very prominent in those areas, right? And I go there a lot, and I always talk about it on the podcast, because I feel that it's really important to speak about, because I think no one really does, or very few people do, because it's so normal, right? Someone gets killed there, it doesn't really end up on the news, because it happens so often. But if someone was killed, say, in this area, it would be a big headline, right? What can be done about the drug problem and the gangs problem in those areas?
Well, remember, the genesis of this problem was the disbanding of specialized units. You used to have gang units within the SAPS, and I want to just make it very clear, because this is where a lot of people start to cross their wires. Policing and safety and security is a national government responsibility. We have a national police system in South Africa, and part of the reason we're fighting for devolution so hard is to get provincial and local government more policing powers. With the disbandment of those specialized units, the Narcotics Bureau and the gangs units, you ended up then.
And guys, what happened with the Western Cape establishing their own policing unit? I remember there was a time where the Democratic Alliance was speaking about the Western Cape's policing unit. What really happened with that case, guys? Please remind me what really happened there. Because I think what John Steenhuisen is saying, like, guys, it could work. I mean, like, just imagine if we all forget about the South African Police Service and every province has its own policing system. I mean, like, I think by that way we can combat more crime other than relying on the South African Police Service. I mean, like, guys, the SAPS, the work that the SAPS is doing, man, it's shameless, man. It's shameless to see the work that the South African Police Service is doing, man. South Africans are not safe. And these things are not only happening in Cape Town, they're not only happening in Nyanga and everywhere. Man, these things are happening everywhere. South Africans are not safe. It doesn't matter where you live in South Africa, basically. But if you live in South Africa, you are not safe. It's crime everywhere. It's drugs everywhere. It's like, guys, we don't have borders in South Africa, man. What is happening with our country, man? What is happening with our country, man? I think, guys, let's be honest. At this point, as South Africans, we can say that the South African Police Service has failed us. I think it's fair to say that the SAPS has failed us right now. Because you know that, guys, wherever that you live, if criminals come to your house right now and you decide to call the South African Police Service, man, these guys, they will get there after 3 hours or 4 hours or so. That's what happens, man. Those are the kind of problems that people are dealing with. Those are the challenges that average South Africans are faced with. They can't even call the police when something bad is happening because the police is not going to come right away. The police is going to come like maybe after 2 hours. The police is going to come when someone has already died. We can't even call the police, but at the same time, South Africans are being told not to take the matters into their own hands. But what choice do they have? What choice do they have right now? We don't have a choice, man. As South Africans, man, we don't have a choice. Because we cannot put our faith and trust on the South African Police Service, knowing exactly how the South African Police Service operates. We cannot, man. So as South Africans, man, I think it's unfair on us as average South Africans. I think it is honestly unfair on us to be expected to trust this institution that has failed the people for years and years and years. It is unfair to expect the people to trust this institution, man. With the crime that is happening in South Africa, I don't even know where to start when I'm talking about crime right here in South Africa, man. I don't even know where to start. You look at the kidnappings, man. You look at the drugs, man. You look at the abandoned buildings. The buildings are turned into illegal settlements, man. In the middle of the cities, man. Go to Johannesburg, man. The whole of Johannesburg, it's an informal settlement. The whole of Johannesburg CBD, it's an informal settlement. All of those buildings have been hijacked and now they are being turned into informal settlements, man. People are doing their own things right there, man. They are connecting their own electricity and water and so on. This is the reason why that building a few weeks back, it caught fire and over 70 people lost their lives. Unfortunately, over 70 people lost their lives. But the one question that you can ask yourself is, how many buildings are like that? How many buildings are like that? Hemen Mashaba said that there are over 600 buildings in Johannesburg that have been hijacked. Man, like, that's why I'm saying the whole CBD right now. At this point, the whole Johannesburg CBD, it's an informal settlement. So with that kind of, like, guys, you know these buildings, man. These buildings are being used to traffic children. These buildings are being used to force innocent girls on prostitution, man. Man, the crime in South Africa, I'm telling you, man, it's so painful. It is so painful to look where we are right now in South Africa, man.
And without a focus on it. The reality is you'll never beat gangsterism and drugs unless you have an intelligence-driven operation. Yes, you can do the Bobby on the beat and do the raids from time to time. And yes, you will take drugs off the street. But the reality is that unless you have intelligence-driven operation, you're never going to get on top of the gang problem. You're never going to get hold of the drug problem.
And the other thing, man, people have said that the DA, especially when it comes to this whole thing of Cape Flats, man, and what's been happening right there, it's like they're trying to pass the buck to someone. It's like they're trying to pass the buck to someone. That's the allegation, again, that has been leveled against the DA. That the DA would never allow what's happening in Cape Flats to happen in Stellenbosch. They will never allow that. So why can't they stop what's happening in Cape Flats? Just like they stopped crime, maybe basically in Stellenbosch. Why? Because people say that what's happening in Cape Flats, what's happening in Mitchell's Plains, or what's happening in Nyanga or Khayelitsha, man, I'm telling you, the Democratic Alliance will never allow that thing to happen in some of these white places. That's what people are saying. So is it fair to say that the Democratic Alliance at this point they're trying to pass the buck to someone? Is it fair? Is it fair? Because is it fair to say that the Democratic Alliance is basically not doing enough to make sure that those places are safe right now? Is it fair to say that? Is it fair?
Now, let me talk again why I think devolution is so important. We have a national police plan that hammers the square peg of national policing into the round holes of different provinces and just bangs it in. But the problems facing the Western Cape are very different to the problems facing the Northern Cape. And the problems facing KwaZulu-Natal are very different to Limpopo. Let me use an example here. So having a police service and don't believe that poaching is a priority, Parliament poaching. What they don't realize is that the Parliament poaching industry is intrinsically linked to the drugs industry, which is intrinsically linked to the firearms industry and linked to gangsterism. There's a chain there.
It's all linked,
So if you don't deal with the one section, you're not going to be able to deal with the rest of the chain. And that's why the provinces now have to step in with an anti-poaching unit to try and stop the Parliament poaching, because if you can do that, you can stymie the drug trade in the Western Cape. And this is precisely why we need to have, I believe, more provincialized policing services that can focus on those more relentlessly. And it's also why the Metro Police under J.P. Smith have introduced the gangs unit in the Metro Police to try to get to grips with gang-related violence and to try and use smart technology, drones, intelligence, being able to track cell phones, being able to track the movements of well-known gangsters to try and combat crime. But the reality is, just as in Chicago in the 60s and New York in the late 70s and early 80s, you won't beat the gang and drug problem unless you have intelligence-driven operations that goes after not the runner on the street, but the kingpin sitting behind all of these gangs. Those are the people that you've got to go after. And many of them are politically protected. Many of them pay off the police. It was very tragic going on a raid one evening with the Metro Police, and they'd taken a 38 special revolver, silver one, off one of the gangsters. And I said to the guy, "You must be so pleased." He said, "I would be, but this is the 5th time I've taken this gun off the streets." Or not off the streets.
Yeah.
Guns are going into the file 30.
And going straight back
They're
out.
going straight, sold back by SAPS. And, I mean, this is no longer a matter of speculation. It's been proven.
Justice.
And it's a huge problem, which is why giving the province more control over the policing service is going to be able to, I think, massively solve this issue. But going after the runners, the small fry, and leaving the whales, well, the runners are easily replaced.
Speaking about this, right, like I hear a lot of the solutions you're giving, I find are, we must take down the kingpin, or we must stop the crime, right?
Correct.
Or we must intercept this one so that doesn't get there. But for me, it's not really about, like, I don't think taking out the kingpin will do anything. I don't think policing it heavily will do anything, right? Because there will always be corruption there. With me, I think the solutions are working with the kids, right? And changing the next generation so that it doesn't keep happening. It's easy to do a raid or take down this guy, right? I'm a recovering addict, and I suffered from addiction from quite an early age. And I know an addict or a dealer or a criminal will always find a way, right? They'll always find a way to get, you can stop this delivery, but another one will come. You can take the kingpin out, another one will take his place, right? What can you do for the next generation to make sure that they don't fall into those traps, and you stop it from the ground roots? You don't stop it, you don't try and cut off the head and then another one grows. You start by the feet and build it up, you know? How do you do that?
So I don't think it's an either or. I think it's an and. I think you can do both.
Yeah.
I think that if one looks how the gangs were beaten in Chicago and New York, it was by decapitation. Gambino family, the Lucky Lucianos of the world. It was through Al Capone's. It was through targeting of those individuals and removing them that decapitated those organizations, created instability within them, and then they fell apart. But the social side of it is also important, and you're right, it does start in the schools. And that was one of the reasons why the Western Cape has these after-school programs where they create facilities for children to go after school to either do recreational activity or to do their homework just in a safe space where...
And guys, what do you think should be done, man? What do you think should be done in South Africa right now to combat the crime that has been taking place? What do you think needs to be done? Because right now, the general public, they can't even work with the South African Police Service. Because they know that in the SAPS, they have their own mpimpis there. They have their own whistleblowers there. So even if you report someone, the chances are that person is going to know you are the person who reported them. And before you know it, your life is in danger. So what is it exactly that should be done, man, in South Africa, man, to combat this whole thing of crime, man? Because right now, the way crime that it has been happening in South Africa, man, is totally out of order, man. In this country, man, we are on autopilot, man. The crime is totally out of order, man. I'm telling you guys, anyone can be attacked. Anyone is prone to being attacked, man. At this point, no one is safe. It doesn't matter whether you are in the suburbs or wherever. So according to you, what is it exactly that South Africa needs to do to make sure that we at least control this whole thing of crime, to make sure that we bring crime down in South Africa? And do you think right now, with the leadership that we have in South Africa right now, are we even is it even a possibility for us to get out of this situation that we find ourselves in right now? Is it even a possibility? Guys, I just want to know your thoughts. What is it that we should do as South Africans, or what is it exactly that we can do as South Africans to make sure that we are out of this mess? Because at some point we're going to have to be out of this mess. It cannot keep happening like this, man. People are being killed in thousands. Right now in South Africa, we are competing with the countries that are fighting wars. In South Africa right now, there are no bombs going off anywhere, but people are dying in thousands. What is it exactly that we can do, man? What can we do?
They're not then influenced by drug dealers and the like. But again, I come back to the point. We have a mass...
And again, man, what is it exactly that not only the DA, what other provinces in South Africa can do to make sure that the young kids do not fall into this trap of ending up being the drug users, of ending up being the sellers, of being the runners of these cartels? What is it exactly that the young people in this country can do? Because most of young people in this country, they grow up in those kind of environments, man. So what can you do to make sure that the kids who grow up in that same environment don't end up being the next kingpin, the next runner or anything? What can the DA do in this position? And not only the Democratic Alliance, so what can all the provinces in South Africa do at this point to make sure that their kids do not fall into this trap of crime?
Massive shortage of social workers in this country. Drug problems require social work. It's not, again, the criminal justice system is not going to help an addict. You can jail an addict as much as you like. It's not going to get them off off whatever they're addicted to.
No, especially in our prisons where people have drugs in prisons, have cell phones in prisons, and can keep doing criminal activities in prison.
You can bring a dead body into a prison these days and set it alight, as we saw.
What do you mean?
Well, that famous case of...
Can you tell me about
Thabo Bester,
Thabo Bester, come on, man.
He escaped out of jail by they smuggled in a dead body
and burnt it so they
in the cell, and they thought it was him, and while he escaped. Our prisons are also, and I mean that's a whole new conversation.
Of course,
because I don't believe our prisons are rehabilitatory in their nature. I think they become universities of crime, and children go in for minor offences and come out, ready to commit harder offences.
For sure.
But again, I come back to the point that
And it's so sad, man, for the taxpayers, man. Just imagine, man. You have these guys who are committing crimes, these guys who are making sure that neighborhoods are not in peace. But at the same time, when these guys get arrested, man, they go to this institution that is funded by the same taxpayers. So right now, someone comes to your house, you call the police, they come in, they arrest them. You are still going to be the one to feed him because you are a taxpayer right now in this country. And these people are living nice in jail, man. They are living nice in jail, man. Sometimes you look at the jails like the Zimbabwean jails or the jails in the Philippines. Have you seen those documentaries, man? Maybe on YouTube, where they show you those jails, maybe in Brazil or in the Philippines or in Indonesia, man. That's how jail is supposed to be, man. That's how jail is supposed to be. But in South Africa, man, these guys are having fun there, man. There's cell phones, there's Facebook, there's WhatsApp. People are watching television, man. And these are the same people who committed crimes. These are the people who committed crimes against the hard-working South Africans. And at the same time, hard-working South Africans are still feeding them with their tax money, man. It's insane what's happening right now. It's insane. It's insane. I'm not saying that every single person that is in jail is guilty of something. There are a lot of people who are in jail right now there are a lot of people who are innocent right now in jail. There are a lot of people who are innocent in jail. But I'm just saying that the majority of these people that are in jail are people who actually committed crimes. Are people who hate other people. But when these guys get arrested, man, they go to this paradise, man, where they have cell phones, their friends are there waiting for them. It's all fun. It's all fun. And the taxpayers are still paying for that. So it doesn't matter, man. So someone commits a crime, man, then they take them to jail to live nice. Man, South African jails, man, should change, man. It is not working how things are today. It is not working. I know that John Steenhuisen is suggesting that we should deal with things in a better way, but it is not going to work, man. If you go to jail, you must feel that you were in jail. You must never even think of doing something that is going to land you in jail again. You look at those guys there in the Indonesia or something, man. Do you think someone who was in an Indonesian jail will go back to jail? Never. Never. They know that there, man, you don't even eat for like 3 days. You don't eat. You don't eat. You don't eat. There's a lot of you, man. In a small room like this, man, you are packed there like sardines. You are packed there like sardines, man. It's sweaty, it's stinky, it's stuffy. That's how jail should be, man. I don't believe that like the way South Africans are doing this whole correctional service thing, man, it is not working for us, guys. Let's be honest, man. It is not working. These guys are having fun, man, in jail. They're having fun. It is no use, man, sending someone to jail. It is, man, I'm telling you, it is absolutely no use sending someone to jail. These guys are having fun, man. They're on social media, man. They are doing the TikToks, man. Just go to TikToks. People are doing the dances, man, from jail. The dances from jail. And some of these guys, man, they've committed the most horrible crimes that you can think of. But they are there in TikTok, man. Like, they're dancing. They're dancing with everyone, man. They are following the trends. They are watching the television. Everything is good, man. They are eating good. They are even being taught right there, man. There's Christian school. Man, people are reading, man. People, guys. We are in trouble, man, in South Africa, man. We are in trouble. I know I'm laughing right now, guys, but I'm not really laughing. I'm hurt. We are in trouble as a country, man.
We have social problems in South Africa, and you can trace it back to many, many things. But unless we get social work done and have a social welfare department that has the manpower and ability to be able to reach into these communities, it's very, very difficult. A school teacher is not going to be able to solve, a domestic problem at home, in a broken household. Their job is to teach. It requires social welfare to be triggered. And this is how other countries work. When there's a domestic problem or they pick something up in the school, the system works because there's an alert then that goes out to the social welfare department in that particular area, and that social welfare department then opens a case and goes and investigates it. And if there's drug abuse, drug addiction, there's treatment clinics that people are then going to. So you've got a system, a whole ecosystem of problem resolution. In South Africa, I mean, you've got teachers that they won't be able to do that. Social welfare workers that are so overworked and underpaid that, I mean, there's just no ways they can carry another case.
Yes.
And we don't have the facilities. I said mental health facilities and treatment facilities for people who are addicts. And I'm talking here particularly people on the lower income levels. I mean, you were probably very lucky. You've got parents and a family that cared for you and probably had means that you could go to a facility. We don't have facilities for the lower income groups, people who don't have medical aid. Where do they go? What facility are they taken to beat that addiction? It's a huge problem in South Africa. It's one that has to be worked through.
So guys, are you satisfied with the answer from John Steenhuisen? Are you satisfied with what he's saying, man? Are you satisfied with that? Are you satisfied with that, man? Do you think that it was fair for Getty McKenzie to say that the Democratic Alliance only cares about the places, or only cares about the neighborhoods that are mostly occupied by white people? They're saying that the Democratic Alliance doesn't care about the neighborhoods of black people or the colors. That's why in Cape Town you will find most of these neighborhoods, especially that are occupied by black people and colors, being riddled with crime and with prostitution and homelessness and all of those crimes. Do you think that it is fair for Getty McKenzie to say that? And I've also heard people saying that the Democratic Alliance is only taking credit for all the good things that they are doing, but when it comes to taking accountability for some of the bad things, they seem like they always want to pass a buck to someone. Do you also think that statement it is fair, guys? So what are your thoughts on crime in South Africa? What do you think should happen in South Africa? Because at this point, guys, I think it is fair to say that the South African Police Service, they have failed us. As South Africans right now are on their own. You can't even call police when something bad happens in your neighborhood. So guys, please tell me what you think about this conversation on the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button, and the most important part is subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.